you always want to go to Miami because not only do you get great visuals and great locations, but there's a feel there, and it kind of reminds everybody what the show's about. You know, Jerry Bruckheimer says there's a different feel there, the air is different, and it is different. However, we do spend the lion's share of our time here in LA, and our location people are so amazing at finding places, and our crew that build onto places and bring in greens and bring in palms and bring in shears. I mean, I have this joke that if a location doesn't work quite, I always say, well, just hang shears, because you'll have these white shears and it looks like the Delano, and it's like we're down there. But again, it is a crew that is absolutely amazing in terms of they do film work.
Well, I think one of the biggest compliments that the show has ever gotten is when we're in Miami, you know, we talk to people there, and they tell me that it's very difficult for them to tell whether we're shooting there and whether we're shooting here. We have a great locations department, and literally they drive around all the time and try to find, you know, houses and locations and beachfront areas that can pass for Miami. And I think we have a lot of success in trying to capture that Miami feel.
I'm the location manager at CSI Miami, and which means my responsibility is to find all the locations we film outside of our stage here. And on our stage we have our permanent sets, our crime lab. So everything else, whether it be beach house, bar, restaurant, it's my responsibility to break down the script and get out there and find that and give the director a place to shoot. Our show is, of course, very stylized and slick looking. We tend to stay away, for the most part, away from the traditional Miami Art Deco. We embrace the word or the term MIMO, Miami Modern, which is, you know, everything from mid-century modern to high-tech steel and glass and poured concrete, and more of the slick, more polished look. When
I first went to Miami for the show, I thought, we are never going to be able to capture Miami. It is such a different place, and it's got such a great feel. But amazingly, that's what locations people do, and our directors and our production really are able to find and shoot these locations to look like Miami, which is really amazing to me.
One of our biggest challenges in exterior filming is Miami's completely flat, and Los Angeles is not. So we're constantly trying to avoid hills, but we have to be selective and find what does work and embrace what does work and deny what doesn't work.
Talking about mountains, we've shot things where there's a big mountain behind. Well, there's no mountains in Florida. Florida is like a checkerboard, flat. It's sea level. So we will have our boys and girls in special effects take the mountain out.
We have a visual effects expert, Larry Detweiler, who really will look at the footage and say, all right, I can get rid of that, or I can add something here. Sometimes you'll put a backdrop in of buildings that'll cover up the mountain. We try to be very careful about not making it look like Southern California.
Our real focus for the show is to sell the story points of the CSI shots, the forensics and whatnot. And those are the ones that I really want to focus on creatively and financially. You know, we have X amount of dollars to achieve each episode. So usually it's not as much me looking at a shot. Usually it's coming from the top, where a producer sees it and says, you know, we really feel like we're in LA on this shot. Can you guys change that sky? Can you guys put some architecture on the horizon that looks more like Miami? We were shooting down at a location in San Pedro Harbor, and across the water there was the peninsula. In Miami, you know, try to find a hill. So that turned out that we had I think 4 shots with a mountain in the background behind our characters. And so we had to go basically frame by frame, cutting out the characters and the cars in the foreground and a couple trees to remove said mountain and lay in a sky back there that matches the rest of the scene. Just to simply not sell it as Miami, but not to expose the fact that we're, you know, in an area that actually has hills.
Well, we're here at Southwest Marine Shipyard in San Pedro, California. And this warehouse here was used in an episode where we needed a warehouse that we could blow up, or at least simulate that we had a large explosion. And we actually had the special effects guys rig this entire warehouse to have the whole front of this blow up. As it turns out, the warehouse here is abandoned, and the whole front facade was actually built by another movie, so we were allowed to do a bunch of damage to it. And all the coverage after the explosion, the whole crime scene that goes on within, we had to shoot from inside looking out at this, and as you can see, that's a big mountain over there, which certainly doesn't exist in Miami, but the warehouse certainly could exist in Miami, so we rely on the visual effects artists to make that go away, as we say, and pick up the pieces of our mess.
The setup is that Horatio and Ryan Wolf come into a building to investigate, and they discover a bomb, and as they're racing out, the building explodes. So now what's happening is they're coming back in to check out the aftermath of the bomb. The camera was facing out this door, and if you notice, there's a nice little mountainside right here, and it's supposed to take place in Miami where there really aren't any mountains. So what we have to do is we have to remove this mountain and put in some more sky or some trees to get it to Miami. So we pan around it, and that mountain is pretty much in the shot the entire time. What I ended up doing was I ended up taking a still image of this background and painted it out, and then what I did was I added more sky to it, and then I also added a tree line. As we go around, we now see that the tree line is there and the mountain is gone. So what this entailed was a lot of roto. As you can see, there's quite a few masks on here to get all the architecture for the building back in. The actual scene will probably be cut down to 2 to 3 seconds. For 2 or 3 seconds worth of footage, we work on it for 2 or 3 days at a time. So, it's long hours, it's really hard, but it's really rewarding in the end.
The big thing here is that we've got location guys who have found great places that can really look like Miami here in Los Angeles, be it in Long Beach or San Pedro, what have you, or, kind of nondescript neighborhoods. It's only those moments where we really need to bring part of Miami to that scene. Sometimes it's a sky replacement, sometimes it's bringing some kind of architecture in the background, sometimes it's color timing where we might take a beach here that clearly has a different color of water, color of sand, do a little tweaking to make it look a little bit more, tropical, I guess. There was a scene that we did that was shot here at our building on the roof, and if you look outside of our window, we have a golf course, and that was meant to be the beach. And so that was kind of a particular problem because of the fact that we had so many cuts up there back and forth, and the more times we have shots cut and we have to replace the background, financially it's a challenge, with schedule it's a challenge. So we ended up basically finding particular angles that we could shoot the beach out there, and we shot plates, or which are lock-offs of live-action shots of the beach, so you have the moving water. And then I went around and shot a bunch of different still plates of trees, typical palm trees, what have you, that you might see in Miami, and composite all those layers together to give you what appears to be Miami Beach outside of our window here at the studio.
Well, here we are up on the roof of our production offices, actually, and our stages here at Raleigh Manhattan Beach Studios. And we actually shot this rooftop to match a rooftop we shot of an apartment building. A lot of reasons we didn't shoot on the practical rooftop, safety being one, and the owner of the apartment building didn't want a whole crew up here. So we shot a whole scene up here of David Caruso's arresting some guy that's up here. They used this roof as access to break into the apartment below. So Horatio comes up and arrests the guy. There's a big fight out here. And we filled in this whole area back here. Visual effects dropped an ocean and beach. So what you see behind me here, this golf course, was not here when the final product. And we shot both axes up and down this way, left it as it is, and just put an ocean in back here.
We're basically doing storytelling with these effects more than we're doing them for jazzy effects, because when you finally see the finished scene, you're not looking at the effect, you're more or less looking at the scene and seeing the story. This is the perpetrator fleeing Horatio, and we have Miami Beach in the background. What we originally shot was this scene of Los Angeles with the mountains and the strip malls and the parking garage and the high tension lines. And for Miami, there are no mountains in Miami. It's flat and there's no smog. So we needed to replace the background to have continuity with, the Miami setting. Because we had to cut him out from his background, we ended up doing a fair amount of what they call roto. So we drew a mat around our perpetrator, and then we used that to put him back in the scene. The beautiful part about the digital world is that if I make a mistake, I just back out of it. And in the old days, if you make a mistake, you burn film and you have to redo the whole process. It's just so nice now.
People are shocked when they find out we filmed 90-95% of our show here in Los Angeles as opposed to Miami. Even my family is surprised. They think I spend most of my time in Miami, which we don't. I guess that means we're doing our jobs properly.
There are challenges, certainly. There's schedule issues always. There's new things to come up with. But the bottom line is if we've achieved a visual effect that shows LA for Miami, nobody in the audience is going to know that we even were there.
How important is it if we get it wrong on the look? It's the show, it's the money, it's the everything. It's a redo. Put it this way, I say to them, it's spaces, not places. If we go to a dental office, it has to be gorgeous. So if the location isn't right, we won't shoot it. Or we'll green screen. We will do anything to not look run-of-the-mill.